You need to hear this if you're fascinated by the unknown. The chilling alien abductions of Betty and Barney Hill and Pascagoula are stories that will send shivers down your spine. The year was 1961. It was a time of great change and uncertainty, with the world on the brink of the space age and the Cold War casting a long shadow over everyday life. Betty and Barney Hill were driving home through the White Mountains of New Hampshire. They had spent a few days on vacation, enjoying the serene beauty of the region, and were now making their way back to Portsmouth. It was late. The road ahead was dark, illuminated only by the car's headlights. The couple chatted quietly, the hum of the engine providing a comforting background noise. Then a strange light appeared in the night sky. At first it seemed like a star or a distant airplane, but it quickly became clear that this was something different. It moved erratically, changing color and speed. Curiosity turned to concern as the light seemed to be getting closer and more unpredictable. The light began to follow their car, hovering and darting in ways that defied conventional explanation. Barney stopped the car to get a better look. He grabbed his binoculars, hoping to make sense of what they were witnessing. Through the lenses, he saw a craft of some kind. It was unlike anything he had ever seen before, a technological marvel that seemed to defy the laws of physics. It was disc-shaped and had windows. Through these windows he could see lights and what appeared to be control panels. Barney could see figures moving inside. They were humanoid but not quite human. Fear washed over him as he realized the implications of what he was seeing. He told Betty to get back in the car. His voice was urgent, filled with a mix of fear and determination. They had to get out of there. The sense of danger was palpable, and they both felt an overwhelming need to escape. As they drove away, the car suddenly vibrated violently. It felt as if an unseen force was shaking the vehicle. A strange buzzing sound filled the air. It was a low, resonant hum that seemed to penetrate their very bones. Then everything went quiet. The car was still running, but something was different. The atmosphere was heavy with an unspoken tension. But Betty and Barney had no memory of what had just happened. It was as if time had skipped forward, leaving them disoriented and confused. They continued their journey home, shaken and confused. The experience had left them both deeply unsettled. They had just experienced something extraordinary, but what was it? The questions would haunt them for years to come, leading to investigations, hypnosis sessions, and endless speculation. The encounter would become one of the most famous and well-documented UFO sightings in history, forever changing their lives and fueling the debate about extraterrestrial life. Their memories of that night remained hazy, but over time, fragments of terrifying images began to surface. Nightmares plagued their sleep. The Hills decided to seek professional help. They consulted with Dr. Benjamin Simon, a prominent psychiatrist and neurologist. Under hypnosis, the missing pieces of their encounter slowly began to emerge. Betty and Barney described being stopped on the road by strange beings. These beings were small and slender, with large heads and piercing black eyes. Their skin was grey and smooth. They wore simple, tight-fitting uniforms. Communication was difficult. The beings seemed to communicate telepathically. They spoke of coming from a distant star system. They claimed to be conducting scientific research. The Hills were terrified. They felt helpless and completely at their mercy. The Hills' story was met with a mixture of skepticism and intrigue. Their account of the encounter was unlike anything people had heard before, and it quickly became a topic of heated debate. They were subjected to numerous interviews and psychological evaluations. Experts from various fields were called in to assess their mental state and the validity of their claims. Some dismissed their claims as a shared hallucination, a product of stress or an overactive imagination. But the Hills were adamant about what they had experienced. But there was physical evidence that couldn't be ignored. Betty's dress was torn in several places, as if it had been forcibly removed. Her shoes were scuffed, indicating a struggle or a hurried escape. They both had strange, unexplained marks on their bodies. These marks were not consistent with any known injuries or medical conditions, adding another layer of mystery to their story. The car was examined for radiation. This was an unusual step, but given the nature of their claims, it seemed necessary. The results were startling. Traces of an unknown substance were found on its trunk. This substance was unlike anything the investigators had seen before, and it raised more questions than it answered. The evidence suggested that the Hills' story, however bizarre it seemed, might actually be true. The physical traces left behind were hard to dismiss and lent credibility to their account. The Hills continued to struggle with the emotional and psychological effects of their experience. They suffered from anxiety, nightmares, and a profound fear of the unknown. Their once peaceful lives were now overshadowed by this inexplicable event. Night after night, they were haunted by vivid nightmares. These dreams were not just ordinary bad dreams, they were intense, almost real, and left them waking up in cold sweats. They knew that they had encountered something truly extraordinary. This realization was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. They felt a sense of responsibility to share their story, despite the skepticism they faced. But they couldn't shake the feeling that they had only scratched the surface of a much larger mystery. There were so many unanswered questions, and the more they thought about it, the more they realized how little they actually knew about what had happened to them. The missing time, the strange marks, the unknown substance, all of it pointed to something beyond their understanding. And so their journey for answers continued, driven by a need to uncover the truth, no matter how elusive it might be. Section 4. Unearthing the Hidden Memories. Through years of hypnotic regression, more details emerged. The process of hypnotic regression involves guiding individuals into a trance-like state, allowing them to access memories buried deep within their subconscious. This technique has been used to uncover hidden traumas, forgotten experiences, and in the case of the Hills, extraordinary encounters that defy conventional explanation. The Hills recalled being taken aboard the craft. They described the interior of the spacecraft as being filled with strange, otherworldly light and an eerie silence that heightened their sense of fear and confusion. The beings they encountered were unlike anything they had ever seen, with large, dark eyes and an unsettling demeanor. They described being subjected to medical examinations. These examinations were invasive and terrifying, involving instruments and procedures that were completely foreign to them. The beings seemed to be conducting experiments, probing and studying their human subjects with a cold, clinical detachment. They remembered the feeling of terror and the chilling realization that they were completely at the mercy of these beings. The sense of helplessness was overwhelming, as they were unable to move or resist the beings' actions. This profound fear left a lasting impact on their psyche, haunting them long after the experience had ended. Betty spoke of a sharp pain in her abdomen. This pain was unlike anything she had ever felt before, a searing sensation that seemed to penetrate deep into her body. It was a pain that she could not explain, and it left her with a lingering sense of unease. She remembered a needle being inserted into her navel. This procedure was particularly traumatic, as it was done without any form of anesthesia or pain relief. The memory of the needle and the pain it caused was vivid and haunting, a stark reminder of the ordeal she had endured. She described a strange, star-shaped instrument being used to examine her. This instrument was unlike anything she had ever seen, with a design that seemed both alien and advanced. The beings used it with precision, as if they were conducting a detailed study of her body. Barney recalled having his teeth examined and skin scrapings taken. These procedures were invasive and uncomfortable, adding to the overall sense of violation they felt. The beings seemed particularly interested in their physical characteristics, as if they were collecting data for some unknown purpose. The memories were vivid and disturbing. They were not just fleeting images, but detailed recollections that played out like a nightmare. These memories would resurface in their dreams, causing them to relive the terror and confusion of their abduction. Despite the evidence and the consistency of their stories under hypnosis, the Hills case remained unsolved. Investigators and researchers pored over the details, trying to find a logical explanation for their experiences. Yet, the more they delved into the case, the more questions arose. It became one of the most famous and controversial alien abduction cases in history. The Hills story captured the public's imagination, sparking debates and discussions about the existence of extraterrestrial life and the possibility of alien encounters. It raised more questions than it answered. What really happened to the Hills that night? Were their memories a result of a shared delusion? Or did they truly experience something beyond our understanding? The case remains a topic of fascination and speculation to this day. What did the beings want? Were they conducting scientific research, or did they have a more sinister agenda? The Hills' descriptions of their captors suggested a level of intelligence and purpose that was both intriguing and unsettling. Where did they come from? The origins of these beings remain a mystery. Were they from a distant planet or perhaps another dimension? The possibilities are endless, and each theory only adds to the enigma. And why did they choose the Hills? Out of all the people on Earth, what made the Hills the targets of this extraordinary encounter? These questions continue to haunt those who study the case, leaving us to wonder about the true nature of our place in the universe. As we ponder these questions, we are left with a sense of mystery and intrigue. The unexplained events of that night challenge our understanding of reality and invite us to consider the possibility that we are not alone. What other secrets does the universe hold? The truth may be out there, waiting to be discovered. Until then, the story of Betty and Barney Hill remains a captivating enigma, urging us to look to the stars and wonder.